right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back to another edition of our Novell Vibe webinar series. Today is September 6th, 2012, and today's webinar is about creating custom forms. My name is Craig Altham. I'm joined here by Landon Stott. We're both members of the Vibe Resource Library team, and we can be reached at vibelibrary@novell.com. So if you have questions for us after the webinar, any suggestions, input, feedback, things like that, please feel free to email us at vibelibrary@novell.com. Just a couple of things to note before we get started. The last webinar that we held on August 6th on the administration console is now on YouTube. It's also been published on novell.com/vibe under the webinar section, and is also being published currently to Cool Solutions. So you should be able to access that webinar. We apologize for the amount of time that it took us to get that published. The video file didn't render in our video editing software as well as we thought it would, so we had to get help from another individual, and finally got it posted. So we promise that in the future that these webinars will be published within a week of the recording. So this particular webinar we hope to have out by September 13th, and if it's not, please email us and we'll keep you up to date as to why there's a holdup. But we don't anticipate there being any issues with this particular webinar. So for this webinar, like I mentioned, we will be talking about creating custom forms, and the key objectives will be to show you how to build the form, how to build the form view, explaining data names, field sets, form elements, and layout options, as well as preparing a form for a workflow, so configuring it so that it can be tied in with a workflow. We will be holding a webinar in about 2 weeks on September 18th to tie into this specific webinar. Today's is on forms. The one on the 18th of September will be on workflows. And so I just encourage you throughout the time here, if you have questions, since this is a one-way thing where I'm the one speaking and I can't hear you speaking back, if you can type in questions to me to let me know that you're attentive, and I'll try to get to those either during the webinar, address them throughout, or at the end we'll stay on as long as is necessary so I can answer all of your questions that you have about today's webinar. All right. So what I wanted to do first is take you to Vibe, the Vibe area out on Novell.com. So here we are at Novell.com, and if you click over here, you hover over Products and go down to Vibe. This is the Products page for Vibe, and right here on the Resource Library is the tab that we maintain here at the Resource Library team. And you'll see here a bunch of different resources. There's forms and workflows. We'll touch on that in just a minute. There's white paper, video and audio. So if you have questions about different things in Vibe, you can actually go and watch these videos that we have. Sample workspaces that you can import. The webinars that we publish end up here. So you'll see here, if I click on this, soon the webinar for the admin console will show up in here. What I wanted to highlight, though, were the forms and workflows that we have available for you here that are pre-made. All you need to do is import the specific form that you're looking for directly into your own Vibe installation. So from A all the way down to not quite Z, down to W, they're in alphabetical order, and just have a bunch of different types of forms that you can implement. The way that you do that, I'm just going to show you here. We'll do a document review. Down at the bottom of the area is found you can find the attachments. If you want the definitions or the form itself, the definitions would be this. If you want the folder, here, additional definitions, and then another folder. So that's where you would download the content onto your computer and then import that into Vibe. And to do that, what you do is you'd go to your own designated space in Vibe, and what I recommend is always to import the form into the actual workspace and not into a specific folder. If you do it to a folder, then you can only configure that form or workflow to that specific folder. If you do it in the workspace, then any subfolder or sub-workspace under that, you'll be able to configure that form too. So I highly recommend doing that. Now, to create a custom form, what you do is you'd click on Workspace, or if you're in a folder, you click on Folder, and then you click on the Form View Designers. Now, to create a new custom form, you'd click New, and then drop down to Entry Definitions. A form in Vibe is known as an entry definition, and we'll explain a little bit why that is. We're going to call this the new custom form that we're going to do for the webinar, and then we're going to give it a name. Now, the name that we assign is actually a data name, and the formatting that we recommend for data names is no capital letters, no spaces, and no numbers. That way it can be stored in the system and recognized easily. So here's an example where I use underscores instead of spaces and pop that in there. Now, because I have a files folder where I'd like to configure this in the future, I'm going to tie it to the file family, and then I'm also going to give it the comment and reply type of file entry, and then click OK. It says I've entered a data name that's too long, so let's try this again. It looks like it accepted it, but for some reason gave me that error. So here we are. We see that the entry form definition, so this is the actual form that we're going to be creating, already comes with a number of default field sets. There's the title here, a description area, there's a place for attachments, and then the form buttons. Form buttons are the OK and cancel button. You can also add additional form buttons to the top of your form, so that if you didn't want somebody to have to scroll all the way down to click OK, you can have that at the top as well. It's definitely doable. So I want to go through and explain the difference between a form definition and a view definition. A form definition is the form that you would like to present to somebody for them to fill out. So they would click on the entry and fill it out. The entry view definition is what is viewable once the form has been filled out and submitted. And we will go over that, and I'll show you exactly how to view it and to configure everything. So now I'd like to dive in right into the build of our custom form. This is going to be pretty basic, nothing too fancy, but again, as I move along, if you have any questions, please feel free to type those into me, and I'll try to address them as we go or afterwards. So what I always like to do in the form is to add an HTML field set or layout option. And the reason why is it adds a little bit more flair and makes it so it's not as boring. So I'm just going to call it new custom form, give it the data name new custom form, HTML, and then I have some code here that I have copied. It's basically going to have a title that says that it's a new custom form, and then a short paragraph afterwards. The color on each of the sides is going to be gray, and then it'll have a white area where we'll place all of the fields for our form. And then to finish it off, I just add a couple of div closes and click OK. So now you see here, down at the bottom of the form, I have what I've just entered. The new custom form, and then the short paragraph or sentence that I added there. And when you first create something in the form, it's going to put it down at the bottom. And to move that, you click on the actual element that you want to move, select Move, and then click on the new location for your item. I would like it to be just below the title, so I'm going to click on Title, and I've been given three options. I can move it above, below, or into. I actually can't move it into the title area, but I can move it above or below, and I've chosen to move it below. And I'm actually going to take this title and move it into this HTML area. So now I have this form that has a title, a heading from the HTML, as well as a short sentence to let individuals know who are viewing the form what it is when they're filling it out. To add a couple more, now instead of adding something to the form because it's already an HTML element within the form, we'll click on HTML, New Custom Form, and click Add. And here we have standard form elements as well as layout options. Now I can add a checkbox area, date and time field sets. I can include an email list, event, file upload, group lists, all of these different areas. What I'm going to do is add a user list. And what the user list will help me know is who's filling out the form. And I'm going to make this required because I'd like to know who filled it out. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to move it right above the title. So then it looks like this. And what this will do is if you have your Vibe installation synced with your LDAP directory, then any name that you type in would start to show up. So since I'm found in our eDirectory, I can click on that and it would show that it is me who is submitting the form. To add another element, HTML, click there, click Add, and I'm going to add another text area. So we already have the title area that is a text area. I'm going to add one other text area. I'd like to know what the company is that this user is from. So give the data name, company name, and then I'd like the width of it to be to include about 40 characters. I'm not going to make that required. Click OK. Now, for the title, here's something that's interesting. If I click on that and click Modify, the caption can be changed, but the data name needs to stay the same. So I'm actually going to change the caption to position. And I'll change this back over to 40 so it matches the other. And that way I've changed this. Title has to exist somewhere, but I don't necessarily want it to say title. So I've changed it so that it says position instead. So the person who would submit it would tell us who they are, what the position is, and what company they're from. Now for the view definition, in order to view it once the form has been submitted, all we would do is go back in and add the same elements that we've added up here in the form. So we'll click Add HTML, New custom form and then new custom form view. I always like to put view in the data name when I'm doing the view, just so I can distinguish between what was the form and what is the view. So I'll copy the same code that I put in before and click OK. And then what I want to do is move that again to the top. And then I want to match here in the form the same formatting that I have here. So I'll click on HTML, add, and then I'll add the title. Actually, I want to add so that it's all uniform. I'll add the form submitter here. Click OK. I'll add the position, which was the title, and I'll add the company name, which is here. So now we've built a basic custom form, and I'm actually going to move the form buttons into this same area. Below the company name. Now we have it right here. So here we have a basic new custom form that we've created. And I have a question here that basically asks, with the form you're basically creating everything twice. You're not necessarily creating everything twice. With the view, it's already been created. So you just have to lay it out in the same format or layout that you had it before. So as you see, when you add the elements, they already exist. So I'm going to close this, close again, and now in the Files folder, I can come over here and configure this folder to show not as a new file entry. When I want a new file entry, I'd actually like it to show the form instead. I'll go to Folder, Configure, Views, URLs, and Controls. And the entry type, I no longer want to be the file entry. I want it to be the new custom form that we created. I'll click Apply there. And because I don't have any associated workflows, I won't worry about that at this time. So now, you'll see here that I have a new custom form button instead of a new file entry. If I click on new file entry or new custom form, here I have the new form that was created as well as the view once it's submitted. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this with my name. That was required. Position. There, and I'll click OK. So now that it's been submitted in this Files folder, I can view the entry, and it would show up in the same way as it was before. And because we use the title as the position, now the title is showing up as via Resource Library team member. So when you're viewing it here in the Files folder view, when you view the entry, the title that will show up here would be the position of the person that you're looking to review. I'm just going to take a look at a couple other questions. I have a question here asking, is there an easy way to copy the same layout from the entry? Unfortunately, the way that it is laid out right now, there is not an easier way to copy. You just have to kind of look through and make sure that the layout that exists in the form definition is what you're putting in the view definition. All right, so here we have it like this. Now what I want to do is when somebody comes to my landing page, here to creating a custom form, instead of them having to go over into the Files folder and click on that to submit the new form, all I'm going to do is link to the form. I'm going to copy the link address, come back here, and in the landing page, I'm going to include an element that allows for the form to show up. So there's two different ways that I can do this. The way that I like to do it is using the HTML element and type in here, submit a new custom form. You can choose how you want it to look. We'll give it a nice teal color. And we'll make the font size a little bit bigger. Now we're going to link that sentence there by copy and pasting that link URL that we copied from the folder. We're going to have it open in a new window and click Insert. Now it's a hyperlink. Click OK, and then we have this new custom form that we can click on here. If we click OK, we're now in the landing page, and if I click on this, it's going to open up a new page that has the custom form. The other way that we can do it is we can actually embed the actual file. So creating a custom form, workspace, edit workspace, and this time I'm going to embed a web page. The URL would still be that URL that I copied, and I'm going to make the height 500 and the width 900, just so it all shows up, and then I'm going to call it the new custom form. And now, in the landing page, we have either a button that we can click on to submit the form, or we can just display the form itself by using the enhanced view. And we have these scroll bars here that allow you to view the entire form if you'd like to do that. So that is basically how to create a custom form. Not too difficult, but it can be time-consuming depending on the scale of your form and the amount of detail that you have there. Creating the form itself isn't hard. Linking it up to the view, just making sure all of that can be, like I said, a little bit cumbersome, time-consuming, but in the end, you'll have this nice clean look and a form that makes sense for your organization. Again, if you have any additional questions, we invite you to ask them now, and we'll do our best to answer them. I've tried to do so throughout the webinar, and I think I've answered most of them, but I'd be happy to stay on and answer any additional questions that you have. Again, our next webinar will be September 18th, and it will be about workflows. So what we're going to try to do is configure a workflow to a form. It might even be the same form, but we'd have to build it up a little bit more. But we'll do a workflow webinar to show how it configures with a form and how they can work together to help automate and simplify your processes that you have in your organization. So again, thank you for attending, and we'll go ahead and field any questions that you might have. And if you have any questions afterward, feedback, things like that, please feel free to let us know at vibelibrary@novell.com. Thank you.